bring it home, Chris.
All right. Gosh, what a lot of clever things have been said today. I'll try not to ruin it. So I think we've kind of heard from sort of different flavors of entrepreneurs on the panel, and some people saying they were definitely not tech founders. I definitely feel like I am a tech founder. I think when I was 2 years old, we left the bungalow in Oxfordshire and moved over to America because my father was working at NASA. And so, my early memories were going to the airbase with him, with my brother, and he would fire these big turkeys at these windscreens that he was trying to strengthen. And from there, my brother went on to, he's now a professor of quantum computing, so watch out, people being disrupted. And yeah, I was sort of always felt like technology was going to be where I spent my life and my career. So then, at 16, planned my first business, didn't work out, but at that point knew I had the entrepreneurial bug. And then, sort of weirdly, out of graduation, I applied to work for a music company. And I won't say which label, and this label it was for the A&R side, they had thousands of applicants for 3 jobs, and you go through 17 rounds of interviews. And at the very end, they sat us down and they told the last 3 people, we are going to hire none of you. And we asked why. It's like, well, this thing called Napster has come out, and we're just not really feeling very confident about growing the team. And that was the moment where I realized I don't want to work for a music company. I want to work for this thing that is stopping music companies hiring. And that was, again, when really felt like consumer internet was going to be where I should start my business. So at the time, when I left university with a physics degree, I was living in a house. There were 5 of us, 3 of the women there were sort of obsessive online shoppers, and we had this stream of black and white boxes coming in. And I'd sort of watch how they were browsing from across the living room, and they had 72 different tabs open, managing this and that. And this felt like super weird to me. Actually, not a lot of men's fashion is being sold online. In fact, maybe only about 1% of fashion being sold online at that time, at 2010. But here they were, really struggling with this when this app called Spotify was allowing to listen to any song from one app. This, tools like Skyscanner was allowing us to go on holiday super easily, and here we were with 72 apps. And I think Asmat was talking about some of the sort of things you have to believe, and maybe taking some jumps. The thing that I had to believe was that e-commerce would happen to fashion, which was by no stretch a difficult view to believe. So we kind of imagined, well, how do I solve this problem for these housemates? What do we imagine if this 1% goes to 10%, if it goes to 30%? And that was really where the idea of Lyst was born. It was this idea that, how can we bring together all of the fashion items being sold online to help customers who know exactly what they want or kind of what they want navigate this really complex world, so they make sure that they get the perfect thing for them in their size, and really sort of try to make that process a lot easier. So with that idea, I quit my job, and then weirdly actually started the business from the British Library. But not from this part. It's from the cafe. Like Asmat wanted the Wi-Fi. I didn't realize. Maybe if I'd known about this, that would have been different. So there, around lots of people studying for their finals, we're sort of putting together, sort of thinking, trying to find my co-founder. And I found someone who I thought would be the ideal co-founder. And together, we sort of spent lots of evenings and pizzas, planning this. And part of it was sort of agreeing how we would work together. And so I kind of drew up a contract, and as we were about to sort of sign, I think at 3 p.m. on Monday, he was going to come and sign. And at 1 p.m., I get this SMS, this text message being like, hey, sorry, took a job somewhere else. And did not have any idea he was even talking about somewhere else. I'm on my savings at this point, but wasted 2 or 3 months, getting to this point. And out of the blue, this happened. And I happened to be working out of the office of a friend of mine, another startup called Songkick, and was there making a cup of tea, sort of just thinking what was going to happen. And the founder happened to walk past and looked at me and said, well, what's happened to you? You look terrible. And I told him, and he laughed. And he said, okay, take your coffee, let's sit down on the stoop, and I will tell you what happened to us in our first 2 hours, or two months. And that was, and his story was far worse. And so the graph, I don't know any entrepreneur who hasn't had that graph experience that you showed, Pip. I mean, it really was but what was so helpful was at the very, even before the company was born, getting that feedback that these terrible tragedies, or so you think, will happen to you. And every company that you admire, every product that you use will have gone through exactly the same thing. And knowing that it was par for the course was a massive lesson in resilience, which I think is one of the things that anyone starting a business is going to need, in those moments of despair, which are frequent and plentiful. You need to kind of have that resilience. And then, sure enough, like a few weeks later, I meet somebody else for a co-founder who ends up being 10 times better, and we still work together today, and that was just a lovely story. So that was, again, back in 2010. If you fast forward to today, the business will do north of 300 million in sales. We've got, in fact, the same investors as Spotify and some of the other businesses I mentioned, and actually now LVMH, one of the largest luxury fashion groups in the world. Yeah, and I think that's probably all I have for now. Is that okay for 5 minutes?
Very good.
Yeah. All right.
So you kind of glossed over it there. You had this person kind of ghost on you, effectively, or kind of pull out of things, and you'd gone into your funding, but just now you're talking about kind of your investors. Can you tell us a little bit about that journey? Kind of how have you funded? Where does bootstrapping become, angel investment become, the next stage up?
So it's a good question. So within, let's say, 6 months, the business was profitable, providing we didn't pay ourselves anything, which is not a great form of profitability, but just basically keeping the servers on. And we had this dream that we wouldn't need to. We kind of the business was not like the model was not like, let's build a product that loads of people use and then switch on the monetization. The product was like, if we help people discover things they want to buy, and we're taking a commission when they buy things, we should be able to make money as soon as the product is useful. And so we were beginning on that journey, and then I remember one evening I got an email from like one of these newsletters announcing that Google was launching a business called boutiques.com. Anyone heard of boutiques.com? Nobody. Okay. So at the time, it was about boutiques.com having their launch party. It's a Google business with Tom Cruise and what was the wife? It was
Kelly Holmes.
Kelly Holmes.
Kelly Holmes.
No.
The other Holmes.
Katie Holmes.
Okay.
Katie Holmes. Thank you. Yeah. At this launch party, and when the biggest internet company in the world is doing something really, really similar to what you're doing, that was another one of those off-the-chart despair moments. But again, what can you do? So we continued, and then we saw the product they released about 3 days later, and we all breathed a sigh of relief because it was very different to the concept that we had. But I guess a couple of things happened. We were actually thinking, look, if we want to do this seriously, we think there's an opportunity, and it's a timing thing. Timing is so critical in these businesses. There are tons of like mobile businesses that were kind of launched before mobile was a thing. And they, even though they had good ideas, they didn't ride the currents. And for us, we felt that, well, if fashion is going to go from 1% to 10% or 30%, there's going to be a timing thing here. And if other people, and companies like Google, are thinking about this, we'd better try to turbocharge this. And that was when we started to think about an external fundraise. And actually, the investors, to their credit, didn't freak out about Google in the space. They actually said, this is validation that there's something here, and we believe that your take is sufficiently different. And then 10 months later, Google sunset that product because it didn't work. And then
the rest is history.
Yeah.